listen, you love popular culture.
I
I
do.
love popular culture, probably to the detriment to my social life. However, we're good with it. But do you
Yeah.
think people, on average people, are we looking at our screens too much? Is it too much media? Even though, because if we go 40 years ago, you just had your TV set, or a movie. But now, since we have our media in our hands all the time, are we consuming too much? And kind of what you were saying about kids, are we not doing enough other things than
Yeah.
looking at our phone? Yeah.
It's a really pertinent question. I think I would be mindful, and you don't. This isn't a how-to book. It's not a self-help book. There's not a ton of advice that you would leave with. There's a little bit of like stuff that I learned in it that I have actually changed the way that I watch things and make things. And some of that, as it pertains to how we watch things, is I found that, like, there's been some actually really compelling research done that binge watching is just a bad way to enjoy something. That if you take it, like commercial breaks, people enjoy shows, and specifically sitcoms and comedies that have commercial breaks, more than they like the same show without a commercial break in it when asked to evaluate it. And part of that's just because you get used to the show. And when you get used to something, you're less interested in it. It's just that's how your brain works. Your brain will inherently if it's cold out, your brain will adapt to the cold. If it's warm out, if you're stressed, your brain will adapt to the warmth. It'll adapt to the stress. If you're giggling because you're watching Friends, you're gonna kind of hit that. And so having a break in between enhances your enjoyment of that, which was honestly somewhat to my dismay because I don't like commercials very much. But that said, the main way that these streaming companies in particular evaluate if a piece of content's good is whether or not people binge watch it. And they have a strong incentive structure for viewers to binge watch stuff. And I can understand why that is, but like the reality is that is actually making folks enjoy the content less than they would have been had there been breaks, had there been ways to kind of break up watching a show so that it's not just one 8-hour block. And so what I've personally started doing is that rather than just binge watch an entire show, I'll alternate between shows. So like if I'm still going to spend a couple hours on a Saturday watching television or watching a new show or something like that. But instead of just kind of, it's all Breaking Bad in a row. It's like, I'll do an episode of Breaking Bad and then I'll do some anime, and then I'll do an episode of Breaking Bad and then and so that I'm actually kind of building in those breaks in a manner that I think will help me enjoy it a little bit more. So for adults, there's no evidence that movies make people into monsters or make them stupider or make them anything like that. In fact, there's a lot of evidence to the contrary, that they can be ways of, engendering empathy and learning new things about the world. But if there's a piece of advice that I would give to folks, it's like, it's not for your health's sake. It's just for how much you enjoy the stuff, that you should be a little bit more cognizant of how you consume these things, because you'll end up liking it a little bit more if you don't just eat the entire box of ice cream. So